And this week, our topic is monthly cycle support. So, this is one that is obviously of interest to, well, I was going to say 50% of the population, but it's also very good for, men to listen to as well, I guess, because
Hmm.
having that information and understanding how the different parts of the cycle go to support your women is important as well. So, feel free to continue listening if you are a guy. But definitely for our women listeners, this is something that I think everyone should pay some attention to, a little bit more attention to, rather than just the old thing of, oh, it's that week. There are kind of different phases throughout the whole cycle, aren't there? So, Margaret, when you're ready, take us away.
Yeah, you know what, Adele? You said that perfectly because the more that women can understand where they are in the cycle, the more they can then communicate to their partner. Even I'm starting to approach workplaces with this
Mm.
kind of information because if your workplace are tuned into this, my goodness, it just opens so many opportunities for people at work that the communication's better, the productivity is gonna be better, and the workplace is gonna be a nicer place to be because let's face it,
More
and
empathetic, more
exactly,
understanding. I can remember
exactly.
when I was 16 and going through that initial phases of understanding your body
Mhm.
and what happens in the cycle and everything. And I had so much pain. It settled down, but during that early stages, and
Yeah.
so I was new to the work environment, and we didn't really talk about, and there was like male bosses,
Mm.
and I was that in that much pain. I occasionally would be physically sick with it,
Yeah.
but you would not feel like you could really say like
Mm.
I can't come in or I need to go home or fortunately it was a really good employer and we actually had, I don't know if I've told you this before, we had a nurse and a little
Mhm.
area on one of the floors and once or twice I had to go and see them doubled up with pain and they'd like take care of you and stuff, but that didn't last. Cutbacks. But yeah, that it's getting better, isn't it? And
Yeah.
workplaces are open to those conversations, and the same with kind of like menopause conversations. It is getting better, but it's very early stages, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the more that, women can start understanding and embracing this, you know what, even within the teen years, if we can get teenagers into this, my goodness, it's going to make their lives so much more easier. They'll get to know exactly when they should be concentrating on different things and even down to the likes of when they should, what different types of exercise they can be doing at different times of the
Mm,
month. So it's a blooming huge subject. I'm only going to scrape the surface today. We're basically by letting you know the different. I don't know what you call them, phases,
phases,
seasons,
maybe,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, whatever you want to call them. I'm just going to go through those today so you can get a basic idea and you can start tracking yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's the word. If something crops up and you need to dash off and you can't listen to the rest of this podcast just now, or you've zoning out or whatever, but just that word tracking,
Yeah.
I think that is gold dust, even if you
Mhm.
just take one word from this. So, because we're all so different, aren't we? So, one size definitely doesn't fit all. We were chatting before we started recording today, and being perimenopausal myself, my cycles change. So I used to be 28 days
Yeah.
clockwork, like for years and years and years. And then suddenly you find it's like 3 weeks or 3 weeks, 3 days, and it's all
Mhm.
over the place. So you don't know unless you track, and you don't
Yeah.
know unless you track mood and skin and energy. And I'm not the best at tracking all of that, although I'm trying to get better because of the perimenopause type thing. So I've got an app now on my phone that I want to be able to understand how that's affecting me. So everyone's
Mhm.
like individual. So yeah,
Yeah.
tracking, track.
Yeah. So it's understanding that, get into that habit, even if it's just I mean, I don't have an app. All I do is literally write down in my diary,
Yeah.
starting from day one.
Yeah.
And as well, how are you feeling? Doesn't have to be any kind of novel or anything, just a couple of words of actually how you're feeling. So you can look back and
Mhm.
reflect and go, right, now it's all starting to click in. That's all starting to
Mm.
make a bit of sense.
And you
So,
can't change things unless you've got that awareness. Everything I
yeah,
teach, I always say it starts with awareness. So if you
yeah,
get that, it's stats, isn't it, about yourself? If you get that awareness, you get that visibility,
mhm,
aha, then you can start. Maybe this is on the second one of these that we're going to do about this subject. Like you
mhm,
say, we're just going to scratch the surface, but then you can say, well, what do I do because my energy dips on week 2 or week 3
yeah.
of my cycle, or I end up feeling like I want to go around and, throttle everybody on the week before. And it's like, that's the one that we all know, the kind of,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but there are
That
other
week.
parts to it. Yeah. Everyone stay down, stay out of the way.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll start with day one, and excuse me if I'm looking down. I've got extensive notes on this because I've been doing a lot of research. Day one, the very, very start of your period,
Yeah.
to roughly about day 10, everything is low at that point,
Uh-huh.
which is not blooming surprising. You're insulin sensitive, and your energy is probably a little bit low as well. But this is actually quite surprising, and this is what threw me a little bit. This is actually a really good time that you can actually take on stress. You might not think it, but your body and your estrogen at this point isn't affected. So stress between day one and roughly day 10, you can take it.
Mm.
And surprisingly enough, it's a very good time to be energetic and running and doing high impact kind of stuff.
Really? I always thought
Mhm.
it was the opposite. So,
No.
like, you should really be resting during that phase
Mhm.
because, you're losing blood and you might be more tired and be in kind of, a bit of pain and stuff like that. So, that
Yeah.
is surprising that that's come up in your research.
It is really, literally because your estrogen is not going to be affected at this stage.
Mm,
And as well, because you're actually, and I'll go into this a lot more in more podcasts. There's a difference between insulin resistance and insulin sensitive. At this stage, you're actually insulin sensitive. So that's another point where you can actually take on stress as well. So this is your day 1 to day 10 when you're bang on starting your period. And I don't mean the spotting, I mean your actual period. So everything is low, but you're starting to build things up again. So that might make a bit more sense that we're able to take on
yeah,
that exercise.
maybe the way I kind of give myself that time to rest when I'm actually on the period because maybe that for me it's like day 1 to 4 really
Mm,
when you're in the main bit, and
mm,
then I would go with day 5 to day 10 or 11
mhm,
or whatever, just after that. If you think of it similar to the seasons or you think of it similar to the moon cycles,
mm,
then it's a bit like the new moon, isn't it? The
yeah,
beginnings, the upsurge
mhm,
towards the peak of your energy and things like that. So yeah,
mm,
slightly after that initial
mhm,
phase,
yeah.
makes yeah, that does make more sense.
So this is kind of your power phase.
Yeah,
This is when it's a good time
that
to get
because
shit
that's
done at
yeah.
work.
So like I say, again, it's individual, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you're listening to this and like me, you're like, I do not feel like running on day 2 of my period.
yeah.
No, thank you. I'm like, no, I'm resting. I'm doing really gentle yoga, and
Yeah.
and you see, with the yoga tradition,
Mhm,
we're supposed to be taking it easy, or not doing power yoga or anything like that during those days of bleeding. But as you're coming out, like day 4, day 5, as you're finishing, that's when I end up cleaning and tidying the house and running around like a mad thing. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've got all this energy. It's like whoosh. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, where's that coming from? And then I
Mm.
always got, aha,
Yeah.
it's always the same, I just get this urge to kind of do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So you might be having it a bit earlier. Day 10, roughly 10 to 15 is your manifestation phase.
Mm.
That's when your estrogen is like, whoo, your testosterone is literally like roaring in. So not strangely, your libido kicks in, and that's when you're really highly motivated, but you're calm as well. So that's your doing phase.
Yeah.
That's your if you want to start a new project, get thing on the go, that's the time. So that might be your cleaning phase, Adele.
Yeah. Well, now that sounds a bit boring. The other things on your list, and I'm choosing to clean. I'm going to change that out. I'm going to change that up.
But because your testosterone is high, that's the time that you want to be doing weights.
Mm. Yeah, so it's interesting to link it to different exercises and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Because when you've got testosterone, that's when you actually can build a bit of muscle. And I'm not saying, crikey, you're going to build massive muscles, but being women at specific times in your life,
Yeah.
you're going to need that support within muscle strength.
And
So
bone,
yeah,
weight bearing exercises is really important for that osteoporosis prevention
yeah.
in
So
perimenopause and menopause.
that is the peak time to do that weightlifting and get it in there for those roughly day 10 to 15.
And that's not to say, there might be women listening to this who lift weights, at the gym
Yeah.
every week and
Mhm.
don't want to start, but again, it's just tracking for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe
And maybe
maybe that's when you could increase your weights a little bit
exactly,
and
exactly.
go a bit lighter on
Mhm.
the other phases. So adapting to yourself is
Yeah.
important.
That's the perfect time when you want to say you
Add a
you
bit
you
on.
used to yeah you used to doing the 10 kilos, whack it up a bit more to 15 or 20, see how
Yeah.
you get on. Yeah, yeah. And you've got your 10 your day around about 16 to 19. It's quite a short window. That's your actual second power phase. And funnily enough, it's when your hormones are coming back down again, but you can still tolerate more stress. If that makes any sense. So you're kind of back to the likes of high intensity training, but again, that's another time that you can tolerate stress.
16 to 19. And then
Yeah.
we're going to start getting into the what I learned as the feral cat phase soon.
It's basically a hibernation phase. That is when it's perfect to do the likes of yoga. Literally because it's the period. I said it. It's the period coming up
Before the
to
period.
exactly, and that is the time when literally all you want to do is sit on the sofa.
And again, it's different for everybody in terms of that window.
Mm,
So track for yourself. Because for me,
yeah,
I used to think it should only be the week before that I felt like that and very irritable and moods and things all over the place. But I noticed it was 10 days before. I noticed
mm,
this years ago because I'd look and I'd think, oh my God, I can feel what is going on. And
yeah,
it was always 10 days
mm,
before the due date that would be kicking in.
yeah, yeah. So
So
it
then
is.
I can give myself permission, to not to be like mean or anything, but just give myself permission to not feel the guilt. And because
Yeah.
if you do snap or you do like end up in tears or whatever, and you've not tracked, you then
Mm,
thinking like, what is
what the
wrong with
heck?
me? Everyone's gonna like hate me or
Yeah.
whatever, and you've got all that guilt as well on
Yeah.
top of everything else. So it's really important just to have that
Mm-hmm.
knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed as I'm getting older and closer to the menopause, my God, that stage before, that week or so before my period, it's getting pretty darn interesting. I can see the difference in my personality.
Mm.
I'm very much wanting to withdraw. I'm very much wanting to, even to the point of communication, and I know this is gonna have to change, but even the point of communication between me and Darren, I'm like, I'm not even in the mood to talk right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and that's
that,
why it's really important to track because if
mhm,
you don't track, you don't know it's that, and you
yeah,
don't know it's your hormones, and you just think you're growing apart, or there's something wrong with your relationship, or there's something wrong with you,
yeah.
or there's something wrong with them because your mind monkeys take over and start saying,
Oh yeah.
they're just like, rah, rah," and then you believe the hype because you've forgotten about this stuff. So
Hmm.
one of the things I was just gonna say, I think is important on that week to 10 days prior, which I
Mm,
know is a tricky week for a lot of women. Um, when I had a training on this by another person we were just chatting about, um, she talked about journaling. And
mm,
I know we've talked about journaling before, and there's I think we've done a podcast on journaling, I'm pretty sure we have.
yeah.
So when we get better at this, we could put a link somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that, but there's definitely one on journaling. But the reason being, like you've just said, communication becomes challenging.
Yeah,
And if you're feeling irritable and snappy, now's not the best time to communicate. So to a business partner, to a colleague, to a member of staff, to a loved one, if
yeah,
you feel because this is the time when you sometimes want to communicate because you feel angry about things, so things will
yeah,
blow up and you'll be like, I'm not putting up with this. And so this is that feral cat stage that I was
yeah.
talking about, that
Mm,
she's going to show up and she's going to like shout and scream and show you all the things that you've been putting up with for the rest of the time that she doesn't think you should put up with anymore. But now's not the time to say
no,
anything because it'll all come out wrong. Everyone's gonna end up, upset and things like that. So now's the time to definitely not push it down though
yeah,
and to pretend it's not happening. Now's the time to journal and to
absolutely.
go and sit in your cozy hibernation corner and put a cozy blanket or sweater on, get a nice cup of tea and just journal, journal, journal. Because that information, when you're in your manifesting stage or when you're
Hmm.
in your power stage and your testosterone's high and your estrogen's high and you're feeling good, you're able to calmly communicate. You could communicate some of that stuff in a nice way, in a
Completely
strong and
different. Yeah,
assertive way, and actually get more of what you want rather
yeah.
than
Rather than the explosion. And I think this is where it possibly, well, it definitely is really, really powerful for parents as well that
mm,
have got teenage girls.
yeah. Anti,
Knowing,
yeah.
yeah, knowing that, oh heck, this is the week before
It
her
to show
period.
that and to show that understanding, which
Yeah.
is if you don't know when theirs is, because I've taught my daughter to track,
Mhm.
and so she always knows, like she'll go, "Oh, it's coming up in a few days, or whatever." But if they don't mention it, and then you're like, God, what is wrong with them? They've just turned into this, like they were, such a lovely
Mhm.
child last week, and now everything's, the world's ending and there's tears and it's all good. But if if you can
Mhm.
get them open and chatting and communicating, so it's not like this, like it used to be, like no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
You can then be prepared for that empathy, because I think it's so important, to be able to teach our children that showing emotion isn't wrong, because we've all been brought up with this,
Give up a
like,
lip.
it, yeah. And if
Mhm.
if someone's in tears, I nearly did it myself. Literally last time my daughter was in tears, which was probably a hormonal thing, because it was over something and nothing. And I nearly did it because it's so ingrained in us. We go there, shh, and we try and stop it.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of myself because I actually caught it and said, let it out.
Yeah.
I said, just let it out. It's not meant to be held in. You wouldn't be upset if and don't want you to feel guilty that you're upset. I don't want you to feel like you've shown yourself up or anything like that. it's just there's probably, something that just needs to come up and come out. And just I said, I'm just gonna sit here and, if you want me to.
Hmm.
And it's like, if they don't want you to, go out of the room, and if they're happy for you to support them, but just be there and just, let them know that it's okay and it's
Yeah,
normal. Because we've kind of been brought
absolutely.
up, haven't we, with this? I think because other people don't know how to handle our emotions. If you're having
Yeah.
an angry outburst or you're just sad,
Hmm.
people try and stop it because they
Yeah.
they want you to feel better, but actually that's not the right thing
No,
to do. The right thing to do is to let it out.
exactly. And knowing all knowing all this and then tracking and understanding the different phases can really help as well. And I'm not suggesting this in any way, Adele, can really help when you need that teenage girl to actually do something.
Yeah. You mean I should get her to tidy a room on the power phase? See, I've not thought of it that way, Margaret. I've only thought of it that, I'll have some understanding, but this could work in my favor as well. I like this.
You start to get known and you both are tracking in the air. It's like, this is the time where she can do this.
Yeah, she can do her room and more revising and all of the things.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love it.
So hopefully that gives ladies and men as well just a little bit of an
Yeah,
insight. And really, I really do just encourage everyone, if it by an app, just by writing it down, just
yeah.
start
How amazing would
doing
it be
this.
for someone to support you as the woman in the family, whether it's your mom or your partner, or for them to track and for them to actually preempt that this might be a tricky week and offer support and offer you to have a bit more rest, bringing you a cup
Yeah,
of tea. I don't know, just like that, how lovely would that be? So if
yeah.
there are any guys listening, take that on board and let us know if you're going to go, do you know what? That would make you like hubby of the year, wouldn't
It
it?
definitely would. Not just that, but
Or employer of the year,
yeah,
like opening these conversations
the
and
absolute
normalizing it.
understanding and communication, so much
Because
better.
we know that it's kind of all like taken tongue in cheek, isn't it? Oh, that
Mm.
week and this, that, and the other. But hormones are huge.
Yeah.
We know that our teenagers go through it with the hormones up and down. Women go through it every single month up and down. We go through it at the second spring and the menopause
Mm.
time. So there's such a massive thing with hormones that I think we don't really fully understand
No,
even yet, do we? And it's not
no.
understood by doctors even, is it? If you go to the doctors half the time. So that's why I said when you said that word track, I love that. And I just
Mm.
think if there's, we can't say you'll feel like this on this day. You can give that guide,
Yeah,
but I think tracking for yourself, tracking your physical symptoms as well, like, joint
definitely.
pain. I've been getting a little bit more of that lately.
Mm.
So tracking when, your knee hurts more, or track everything. Track how hungry you are. I get like
Yeah,
really hungry the week before my period as well. And
there's
you're like,
absolute reasons
what
for
is
that.
wrong with me? I'm like wanting to eat all of the things.
Yeah, yeah, there's absolute reasons for that.
Yeah,
And that's
part
definitely going to
two.
be, that's definitely part two of why are you feeling like this? Why you want to eat certain things? And what can we eat which will benefit us more?
Yeah, and this podcast, we are going to put out the video. We've only just thought of this. So I don't know why, because we record it on video, but we
I
just share
know.
the audio. So we're sharing the video on YouTube. So if you are catching this on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, and you fancy having a look at our faces,
I know.
then do hop over to our YouTube channel, Mind, Mood and Food. Definitely give us a like and give us a subscribe. Please, subscribing doesn't cost. I often have people say, does it cost me? What does it mean to subscribe? And it's still a bit misunderstood. It doesn't cost you anything. It's a click of a button. It literally doesn't really affect you, to be honest,
No.
too much. But what it does do is support us
Yeah.
because we are putting our time into creating and recording these. And not only that, but as you've seen the amount of research that Margaret's put into this topic, we research the topics as well
Yeah.
beforehand. So it's a lot of time and effort. So if you do nothing else and you just click the subscribe button, that's you giving back. If you go one step further and share it, tag us in a post somewhere, that would be amazing. And we will give you a mention on a forthcoming podcast if you do that.
Yes, we definitely will. Oh, I think we've just scraped, I don't know, was it scrape the ice bit? I don't know.
Scrape the surface, touch the tip of the iceberg. I loved it though. I loved today's topic. So thank you so much for chatting to us about that today, Margaret.
No
And
problem.
we'll see you on the next one.
Yep. See you later.
Bye, everyone.